nerds? Have you ever heard of NYX? It's a new X-Men comic by Collin, Kelly, and Jackson Lanzing that focuses on something that fans have been asking for years, but no other book has ever really addressed in depth, which is Mutantkind as a culture, specifically mutant youth culture. And at SDCC, I had the opportunity to sit down or, stand next to the writers and ask them why this is the specific corner of the Marvel Universe they were interested in exploring, and this is what they had to say.
So for us, a big part of the Post-Krakoa era is dealing with the idea not of mutants going back into a world that hates and fears them the same, but going back to a world that hates and fears them changed. What changed in Krakoa? More mutants, mutant excellence, mutant culture, mutant language, mutant art, mutant technology. Mutants have an identity now they didn't have pre-Krakoa, and that identity doesn't disappear when Krakoa goes away. Instead, that identity has to come back into human life and become something like a culture. It has to become something like a community. And so for us, great, an X-Men team is fantastic, and there's a lot of great opportunities for X-Men strike forces and that kind of thing. But that doesn't leave a lot of room to tell a story about how language dies or how it lives, how culture thrives or how it doesn't. These are stories that we're more interested in telling. We're character guys at heart. So for us, we wanted to take a bunch of characters who really needed that, who needed to explore that culture, and who needed that in order to become their next generation of themselves, right? These young X-Men.
Youth of X. Yeah, and it's like a lot of these characters have a lot of decades under their belt discovering who they are, and we wanted to take a look at the younger side of this, who are the people who are still developing who they are, and more importantly, perhaps, are willing to break down and challenge all of the established rules. Jack and I, we fell in love with each other. We became best friends reading books, Young Avengers and Runaways, right? Like that charged youth of energy is really where we felt the story had to live.
And frankly, we've done it before. We did a book called Joyride back at Boom when we were first starting. It's still one of my favorite things we've ever done. It's like a punk rock teenage Star Trek. And ultimately, back in the day, we found that we loved writing that energy because we still are young enough to remember what it was like, right? We're not so far removed from our 20s that we don't remember what it was like to just not know what we were doing and try desperately to find good and fun and honesty with our friends. And
then when you get frustrated, just go to a dance party.
Yeah, exactly. And so that really has become a really emphatic part of this book for us, is like trying to return to that part of our own youth and bleed that onto the page and give that to the X-Men. So for us, it's in part a way to it's just to push Krakoa forward, even though the era is done. And the other way, it's a way for us to give back to X-Men the thing it helped give us, which was our youth.
So your character guys, you mentioned that this series, if not an anthology per se, is going to have a different character focus each time.
Correct. It's not an anthology, but it does have a different character focus.
You have quite an eclectic collection of characters here. We have Kamala Khan, the new mutant, the newest new mutant.
Yeah.
We have Laura Kinney. We have Anole, who is a strange pick in my opinion.
Yep. I think you'll understand after issue 3 why you think.
So the question is, when you got to pick your characters, what was making you say, we need a whole story about this person specifically?
Like with anything with Collin and I, it starts with a conversation. We effectively did a draft.
Yeah, like we did a sports draft. We're like, who do you want to talk about? Who do you want to talk about? We go back and forth, and then it's like, well, wait a minute. Why Anole? Like, why Collin? Because that's my pick. It was like, well, he's this young man who is queer, and he's been developing his identity since he was very young. He's grown up being an X-Men, and yet at the same time, Decimation showed him one of the worst sides of mutant culture ever. This kid, as all the Academy X kids, have lived through such intense and deep tragedy. The fact that it just got done to them again means that character really has storytelling potential, especially since he's like, I don't want to be an X-Men, man. I just want to sling drinks. I just want to be normal. But how can he ever be normal when he has one giant rad lizard arm? I'm also a big fan of lizards, so I've always thought Anole was rad.
And I think, honestly, for us, that same process was across the board. We started with Kamala. We knew we wanted her from the start. She's a favorite character. She was part of the initial brief with Tom. Like that was the only thing on the brief from Tom was we want an NYX book, and we probably want it to be about Kamala. We were like, great, awesome. Let's
sight unseen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We didn't pitch anything else. We pitched that book. We were like, that's the one. That's our thing. And we and immediately called our shot on it because it was perfect for what we wanted to do post-Krakoan era. But then Sophie was a very obvious choice for us, partially because we're both big Grant Morrison fans. We both love the Cuckoos, but also because taking one of them away and really encountering her as a character herself felt really interesting. Also, Sophie obviously has a lot of like death and rebirth strangeness and really only encountered Krakoa, sort of missed decimation, sort of missed a lot of the stuff that people remember. I actually saw some people pointing out like she never actually knew Prodigy and she knows him from the hive mind. She doesn't really know him from herself, right? She'll be so determined on the hive mind and has not determined her own identity. Even though she says when she comes back, she's like, I'm taking a new name. And the other ones are like, nah, and she never does, right? This is the story of her taking her new name. That's we wanted to take her away and see what it was for her to actually stand on her own. How does she do that? Can she do that? Is it healthy for her to do that? Right? So Sophie made a really obvious choice. Noel makes a really obvious choice in Collin's estimation. Prodigy similarly comes from that love of Academy X, but also comes from the fact that he is a character who is ripe for evolution. He made the X-Men and then immediately died. Okay, there's nowhere else for him to go. Is he going to join the X-Men again? He immediately died. Like, no, this guy needs a new life. He needs to find something. And we thought, all right, we need a character who's going to represent what it means to try to fully integrate into human culture. Let's let Prodigy try that. Let's see what happens when he's dating a human, when he is living in a human society, when he is tenured at a human university, when he is living fundamentally as an invisible mutant around all of these people. How does he live? Is that serving the oppressor? Is that serving a good goal for mutants? Where is mutant culture for him? What does it mean? Or does he want to fully live in human culture? That story with Prodigy is going to be an ongoing concern, right? And so it really, again, makes sense to the themes and premises of the book. It might seem like random characters, but they're all characters who are set up to deal directly with what it means to integrate human culture and mutant culture. And that's going to continue. What I want people to know is, like, as an ongoing series, it's not like we have 5 issues and then we start looping the cast again. You're not going to get Kamala again on issue 6. Issue 6 has a new mutant protagonist. Issue 7 has a new mutant protagonist. Issue 8 has a new mutant. Like, we're not getting rid of our cast, but we're continuing to grow it.
Issue 6 has a new mutant protagonist that fans out there will be asking about.
It's a big response to Krakoa, these people who have had everything and had it all snatched away from them. And we see the hero side of that, but also, to get into spoiler territory, the villain side, you reveal that the Krakoan himself is Hellion, who is also a member of that same generation that had probably the worst run of any of the generation.
I think Hellion, even of them, Hellion had the worst run of all. Hellion just had a bad run.
On the panel, they asked, what's the character that you are most excited to write and the character you feel you can leave the most impact on? For me, it's always Hellion. Yeah. He is the one who should have been Cyclops.
Since we met.
The boy should have been Cyclops. And he can't, because he can't get over his own stupid bullshit. And, like, that is a character who is ripe for evolution. And obviously what we're going to be doing with him now is kind of taking him down a dark turn. But like many people who feel so frustrated about what they've been taken, what has been taken away from them, they turn to anger and wrath and that injustice. And that is what's going to fuel him. They are not, none of our bad guys are bad guys, right? They're just twisted in their approach to things and how they're going to be attacking.
Except for maybe Empath.
Empath I was going to ask about, because he bickers with Hellion, so Hellion's not under his control, and he also seems to be mad about Krakoa. So are we going to follow up maybe on the Hellion growth of Empath?
100%. I think a thing that we're really interested in with Empath. So I'm an enormous fan of Zebwell's Hellion's run with Carmen Carnero. I'm obviously always in the tank for Carmen, but that book actually rips. And I love what it does for Empath, really making him not a character that you love or even love to hate, but a character that you genuinely feel sorry for and
Empathize with this bastard.
Yeah, and I think what we wanted to do was say, okay, it genuinely is hard for him to move on in this way, but the only way that he can think about moving on is to engage his villain circuitry, right? Is to start wearing that pink suit again, is to start really imagining what it means to be a big bad baddie within the NYX context. But he's probably our slowest roll, right? We are going to be really slow rolling Empath as we start to understand where he fits in his community, because if there's one thing that is completely diametrically opposed to how Empath operates, it's community. He doesn't know how to be a part of it. So he automatically assumes he won't be a part of it. And of course he's going to build his own stuff. Whether or not he is controlling Hellion, whether or not he is controlling the Cuckoos, we're not going to confirm or deny that right now. I actually want you to be wondering that. We want you to be thinking about that. That is a thing that we will be slowly unrolling over time. But I don't think the answer is as simple as he is or he isn't. And I think that's sort of the where I want to leave that. But Empath is a character we are very interested in digging into. He's one of those he's one of those very, very tough nuts to crack. And we love tough nuts to crack.
And that being said, this is, obviously it's a teen book, or not, it's a community book, right? Which means that there's not going to be a single villain arc either, right? There are many people here who are really excited to take advantage of the spread of mutant diaspora. In fact, those yellow masked individuals who seem to be kidnapping that young mutant off the street. They are directly connected to this other threat. Fans of our Captain America run will kind of look at how we maybe treated MODOK, and we take this character that is traditionally kind of funny, and it's like, no, these are not funny people. These are psychopaths at the highest degree, and you should be afraid of them.
Yeah.
And that is once again something that we are doing in NYX. Yeah, you're going to meet the character in issue 2, and hopefully we spook you out.
People who use the much maligned QR code at the end of NYX issue 1 will have already seen their first glimpse at this character.
Mr. Friend?
Going by the name Mr. Friend. Suffice to say, Mr. Friend's a moniker.
I assume.
Yeah. Well, you'll learn more about what's going on with that boy very soon.
And one final, slightly lighter note. You guys had one of the most creative uses of Kamala Khan's powers I've ever seen, where she morphs her face to remain anonymous. Can we expect more slightly horrifying updates to characters' powers in the future?
Yes, probably. Look, it's actually one of the coolest things about the X-Men is that their powers are so wild that you have to start thinking about them as what's a thing we haven't seen done before? How do we push this further? How do we let them step up? Mutant circuitry obviously is like a great example of this from Krakoa, and we're going to be continuing to look at mutant circuitry over the course of our book and some other stuff we're doing. I think we're also going to be really thinking a lot about the way Kamala deals with being in a secret identity. That's really where that comes from. And then I want to really shout out Francesca Morgarino, because what we said in the script was that Kamala would change her face to be a slightly different looking person, so that just when she got photographed, because she knew she'd be like, oh, if I get in a bar fight, somebody's probably going to get me on camera. They won't get Kamala Khan on camera, which is all that she really needs to worry about, because she just can't get it back to her parents that she's at a club, mutant, or any of this. Like Kamala's lying to her parents a lot right now, which is not a very Kamala behavior. So she's talking
something that we are very aware of.
Yeah. That's the point of the book.
Seem like Kamala. It's like we know. Give us time.
Yeah. That's there's a reason. But as we're doing that, we were like, maybe she just like kind of slightly changes her face, and Francesca was like, I had a different idea, and just like drew it on the page. And I remember we literally were like, that's the grossest thing we've ever seen, and we love, yes, please, yes, do that. That's it.
Another one is Noel. People forget that he has the tongue of a lizard as well, which lets him effectively see flavors. He smells through his tongue, which is
Sticking his tongue in people's drinks?
and trying to hunt people down, and it's just fun.
Yeah, issue 3, he ends up tracking somebody by tasting the air. You have him sort of licking the air around.
I can't believe I
and
just
using
my tongue out like that on a video.
Yeah, great, just for the internet, absolutely perfect. No notes, but that's gonna be. I think again, we're always looking to how can we use these powers a little different? How can we push this just a little bit further?
Thank you guys so much. This book is fantastic so far, and I cannot wait to see the rest.
Thank you so much.
If you like what you heard, make sure to pick up NYX issue number 2 when it drops on August 28th, and like, comment, subscribe. I want to make more YouTube content, guys. Does anyone still know if TikTok's getting banned in America?